people think that social selling is just about content creation, but I would argue that it's 75% basically interacting with people in DMs or interacting with their content opposed to just posting content yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the SDR game, the show where I interview top performing SDRs and I share tips and strategies that work best today about prospecting, productivity, and sales career. And welcome to episode 30. And today I want to be a bit different about the podcast and the show. And we are going to start a mini season and we are going to start to focus on social selling. For this first episode, my guest is Monica McElroy, BDR leader at BizDev Labs. Monica has an impressive experience. She prospected developer marketing, people working with robotics, but also salespeople.
Don't overthink content creation or interacting with people. When I was a little younger, I used to think that I wouldn't have anything unique to say. Nobody would want to listen to me. Who am I? There's anyone who's had the experiences that I've had, everybody's had these experiences. It's nothing new or unique. But what I really learned about LinkedIn and Twitter is people want community and people want friends and they want community. They want to talk to new people and learn from new people's experiences.
And today she's here to share a process with social selling. When you think about social selling, what do you think is the first thing to think about?
The first thing to think about, I think, with social selling is just doing a deep dive into the communities your prospects are hanging out in. And I think the way to really get started with that is by doing some research on who some thought leaders in your specific niche or space are. So that's kind of always my starting point when I'm social selling into a new ICP, is doing research on the thought leaders in the space. I see what podcasts they're featured on, what resources they're putting out there, YouTube videos, and you can learn a lot just by kind of consuming a lot of resources and materials from thought leaders in your space.
How do you find them? Because I know that's a question I get a lot from SDRs who try to do the same thing. So Can you give a specific example?
Yeah, so a couple years ago, I was prospecting to developer marketing leaders, so developer advocates, developer evangelism, developer marketing. So I honestly just started Googling who developer marketing leaders were. I think a really big thing is for communities and even influencers or thought leaders in the space, I think that there's a lot of noise, but it's not not every community is super active. Some thought leaders used to be thought leaders and they're not kind of up to date every, you know what I mean, right now. And so I think a really big thing is just doing a lot of research, trial and error, and investigating is is this a legit developer marketing community? Are these people posting on YouTube a lot? Do they have an active following and community? So just kind of starting to do that research. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, what worked, and actually that's what I'm doing here at Castor. So the first thing I did is talking with the co-founders of the company because I'm selling to data leaders. So I'm not familiar at all with this space and the industry in general. So I don't know who to follow. So I was talking with the co-founders and then the sales team also that most of them, they have experience with this buyer persona. So they know who is posting a lot on LinkedIn. And then I think something that I think super useful is to check or prospect our customers, what they are liking or sharing on their profile.
Yeah.
So and I can use that and then find more people. And doing this, I found maybe 10 people so far in my niche. And that's great doing this. So you mentioned communities. When you say communities, are you, for example, talking about Slack channels, or do you only talk about the audience of those influencers, or what do you mean?
So it totally depends on the ICP. A couple of gigs ago, I was prospecting to robotics engineers based in Germany. In the Germany DACH region, they have a networking site called zing.com. So I spent a lot of time prospecting there. For these developer marketing people, they were really active in a couple Slack communities, really active on Twitter as well. So it really depends on the ICP and doing research for your niche and for your ICP about where they're hanging out. So Twitter, LinkedIn, Slack communities. I think something that's also important to note is that there can be like both geographical like based communities. So like German robotics engineers are on Zing. And then there's also communities because like there's marketers, but there's like developer marketers, there's e-commerce marketers. So there might be Slack communities for those specific niches within marketing or even within certain types of marketing. Yeah, so there's a lot to sift through.
Focusing, that's something not from my prospect, but I learned that from hiring because for hiring SDRs, I wanted to. We were hiring an SDR in the dark market for Chili Pepper, and so that's why we started to use Zing. So, how did you hear about Zing, for example, with this community? Did you learn about this talking to your prospects, or what did you do?
I actually kind of just had a chit chat networking call with a prospect that like evolved from a cold email. I did a little bit of personalization based on their YouTube channel, was connecting with them on LinkedIn as well. And then when I had a discovery call, I said, you know, I'm trying to reach out to people like you. And it's not that easy for like a North American gal who's trying to reach out to European robotics engineers. So, like, can you give me a couple tips on where to find people? So I think the other thing too is like being really personable, like creating these genuine relationships, and people understand that salespeople have a job. And if you really make that effort to make genuine relationships with people and you're not being super transactional, they're going to be eager to help you out too. So I actually found out about Zing through one of my prospects, and then eventually I ended up booking about like 80% of my meetings at that gig through Zing. So yeah.
I try to avoid the dark market actually when I still had like accounts on my lists.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, here that's something you need to leverage. For example, if you want to go after obviously the dark market.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think is the most effective when you are reaching out to a prospect, for example, via Zing or via LinkedIn?
I really just try to interact with their content first of all, and then in terms of my content, I kind of have three pillars to my content. So I try to post things that are valuable to my prospects. So podcasts, resources, whatever I can think of, things or little tidbits or sayings that'll be relatable to them, because people love relatable content and just things that they can connect with. And then another thing is I just like to, pardon my French, like shoot the shit with people. Yeah, I'm just like genuinely trying to become friends with them. So the way I interact with them and then the way that I'm engaging with their posts, it's the valuable, the relatable, and the shoot the shit stuff. And so that's how I'm kind of trying to create a genuine relationship. If my ICP is not very active on social media, like one big opener that I really use is, can you point me in the direction of who takes care of developer marketing at Auth0? Or can you point me in the direction of who takes care of wireless safety at ClearPath Robotics? That's a really good segue into kind of like just getting info on the right person. And sometimes you do have to jump the gun and kind of be a little quicker when talking to these people on Zing and LinkedIn because they don't necessarily log into these sites as many times a day as we do because we live on this stuff, right?
Which is true, and also so it's a lower ask because you're not asking for something really big. It's
Yeah.
quicker for them to reply because obviously if you try, we're obviously going to give some example how you create your relationship with your prospect. But if you ask for a meeting straight away, it's a really big ask when they don't know you or didn't start creating a relationship with them. So here it's you just ask for quick information that they can give you.
Yeah.
You said you have three different ways to when you reach out to your prospects.
Yeah, the relatable stuff, the valuable stuff, and shooting the shit with them.
Yeah, what do you shooting the shit with them? What do you do?
One thing that I really like about prospecting to people on Twitter is that they share their personal and professional lives on Twitter. It's not just kind of one thing or the other. So I had an example of when I was prospecting to a director of technical product marketing at a really big tech company. I remember he posted one time, like for a 7 a.m. meeting, when do you get out of bed? And I'm a bit of a last minute Larry, so I made a joke and I was like 6:48 gives you enough time to go to the bathroom and make a coffee and you're good to go. So just kind of like being silly and being personable and just trying to be someone that they want to become friends with and and just kind of makes them laugh and smile just like you would do with a regular friendship. So yeah, just like interacting with them. Another thing too on Twitter is like not just the kind of shooting the shit stuff, like giggling, making them laugh, but also like some people post about their daughters, like that they're graduating from elementary school or that they make handmade guitars. So they're a developer marketing person by day, but they do handcrafted wooden guitars by night. So it's just talking to them like my husband's a musician. So just kind of talking to them about interests beyond work and just honestly creating real relationships. I think that one thing about social selling that a lot of people get really wrong is that they treat it as like a step in a sequence opposed to genuine relationship building. So I'm always really immersed in the communities that my prospects are hanging out in, whether it's a Slack community, Zing, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. There's too many to count. And I kind of always have one like foot in the door of these communities, like whether I'm on vacation or I'm on the GO train, like going to a networking event downtown, but I'm on Twitter and I'm just kind of talking to people and really treating them like they're my friends, right? I'm not kind of, oh, every 3 days I need to like cross off a LinkedIn step in my sales loft or outreach sequence. And so I need to view their profile once or like one of their posts and make a comment. And I think that people like they think of social selling as like a box that they have to tick on an outreach sequence opposed to creating real relationships. And when it's very transactional and just you're crossing off a step or something on your list, you're not going to create those real genuine relationships, which I think that's why a lot of people don't get anywhere with social selling is because they just have the wrong approach. And I'm really trying to become friends with these people, shoot the shit with them, share stuff that'll be valuable to them, etc. So
So you give a specific example about you saw a tweet from your prospect, also you saw that they like playing music, for example. So
yeah.
what other triggers are you looking for? Do you have like a process or you are just trying to see finding something you can talk about?
First of all, I'll find the community that my prospects are hanging out in. I usually have an account list, and then I try to find my ICP or decision makers that are in that community, and then just like day by day, slowly add all of these people. And then basically, I have my account list, I have my list of like the 300 people that I'm trying to get in touch with. And then if they're making YouTube videos about like, did you ever want to know what a developer marketing person does for a living? I'll make sure to watch their video. If they're featured in a podcast, I'll listen to it and DM them on LinkedIn and say, I found the part about XYZ interesting. And so I think the big thing for me in terms of process is just like having that target account list and getting the like kind of that target list of 300 people you're trying to get in touch with. And then after that, it's honestly not that process oriented because I'm just trying to build real relationships with people in real time and just get really involved in that community. So another thing I'll say, and like this is kind of the deep dive I did into that developer marketing community at the time, was developer advocates. It was just a thing that I found out through a YouTube video, and then I started to see it on Twitter a lot. A lot of these developer marketing people have avocados in their bio because they're called developer advocates, but they call themselves developer avocados. And so then I put an avocado in my Twitter bio, and then a bunch of really big like influencers in the developer marketing space started following me because they kind of thought I was a developer advocate. And like there's so much nuance to these communities. And if you don't always kind of have your foot in the door, and when you're on the train, you're not like checking your messages, like I'm kind of always turned on like in these communities. And that's how you really become a part of them and develop those real relationships. You find out their little like inside joke about the avocado thing, and then you have a way in to like actually become a real part of their community.
That's a really good example of really and knowing your community.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm like I mentioned, so I'm pretty new to data, and so I'm part of two Slack channels where I'm not here to prospect, but just here to learn about exactly what you just mentioned. It's
Yeah,
for example, they have like one of the Slack channels. They have like a channel with memes, and so I try to
yeah.
see them and see uh, what's funny about the job or stuff like that. So to
Their
be
sense of
to,
humor, their style, how they talk. And yeah, like just like things that are important to them, events that are coming up, things that they find funny, and like even memes too. A lot of times, like memes are things that are funny, and like a lot of people get comedy out of like pain points or things they're trouble like or they have trouble with, or like you know what I mean. And so you'll like people have frustrating parts of their jobs, they'll create memes about it, and it's just there's so much that you can learn about your prospects by like genuinely taking an interest and really getting involved and not being half-hearted in how you want to talk to and get to know these people.
can you share like a recent success story you had with a prospect, and let's say from the beginning, so when you identify your account and then you find the person, and talking about your process until you book the meeting, just to share some details about what you did.
So I booked a meeting yesterday with a co-founder at a B2B SaaS tech startup. So right now I'm targeting go-to-market leaders, the VP sales, or kind of co-founders of really small pre-seed Series A kind of stage companies. So what I did is I kind of have that target account list that I created. I was finding the co-founders, VP sales, VP marketing, leaders at those accounts. And then I added all of them on LinkedIn. I added all of them on Twitter. And so the thing that I did to get the meeting yesterday, and it was a couple weeks in the making, was what this guy described as just authentic and genuine interest and interactions with him and his content and like really caring about what he was talking about. So he had made a couple tweets on Twitter. I found his phone number and I was iMessaging him about some of his tweets. He just made a slide deck yesterday on LinkedIn about persuasive communication and email writing. I myself had just written an email copywriting guide, and I said a lot of the points you shared in your deck are also things that I mentioned in my guide. And so I sent a couple screenshots of the guide. And so basically, I was engaging with him on Twitter. I was liking his stuff on Twitter, on LinkedIn, commenting, talking to him on iMessage. I had also enrolled him in an email sequence, so he was also like engaging with my stuff and opening my emails. And then I forwarded him my email copywriting guide yesterday. And then he responded to me and he said, I know you've been trying to get in touch with me and we are looking to like hire an SDR and we really need some like sales development talent and help right now. And I really appreciate the like genuine approach in getting to know me, understand me, and like just genuinely connect with me. So it would be great to meet you and kind of see what you guys do.
I have two follow-up questions on this. So first question, so you said you added all your prospect at the account on LinkedIn. So do you send a blank connection request, or do you add something that you find about them, or what's your process on connection request?
I used to send messages with connection requests. I found that it significantly decreases my acceptance rate when I do have uh, some kind of message, so I don't include a message at all. Something that I forgot to include of another kind of way that I got in touch with this prospect is because I'm doing outreach to go-to-market leaders who are hiring SDRs. I also made a list a couple weeks ago of 100 organizations that are hiring SDRs. And I also included him on the list saying, like, this company is hiring SDRs. Connect with so and so, which was him, if you're interested in an SDR role. So that was another way that I got his attention. But the thing is that I never actually asked him on social for a meeting. He knew that because of my email outreach that I was trying to book a meeting with him, but on any social channel, I wasn't like I didn't say anything about booking a meeting. It was just about engaging with his stuff. And then he appreciated the outreach efforts that once I forwarded him my copywriting guide, he said I seem like a cool person to connect with and he'd be interested in meeting me and learning more about what we do.
And you mentioned also iMessage. Do you, when you find the phone number, did you send a message directly, or what did you do? So because I know I'm asking that because um, sending text messages to prospects, I know in some countries you're not allowed to do that. So what did you do here?
Honestly, my iMessage outreach methods, I don't think are very GDPR compliant. Basically, what I did was I just said, "Hey, so and so, like, how's SDR hiring going?" Um, and then he didn't respond, obviously. Then I saw one of his tweets, and I just took a screenshot, and I said, "Really agree with what you said. This is what I think, XYZ." And then he didn't respond to that, but he read it because he had his read receipts on. I love when my prospects have iMessage because then I know like when they're reading my content and that they're actually receiving it. And then I sent him a John Travolta meme after he didn't read my iMessage. But yeah, I think that in total it probably took 15 to 18 like touches or interactions with him before he responded to my email when I sent him the guide, and he asked to have a meeting with me.
How long did it take you to book the meeting? And I know you said that the goal is not here to book the meeting right away. So, but it took it took you 2-3 weeks more or less to book him, or
From when I started interacting with him and I kind of identified him as a prospect, took 2 weeks to get the meeting. The thing with social selling is that it is a long game and it does take a little bit more time. But at the same time, because you took the time to build a genuine relationship, I think like there's the meeting booked rate and then there's the meeting show rate of people actually showing up. And then there's like going to trial. In this case, we don't have a trial, but I mean like for software, and then closed one. You know what I mean? All the like just different stages of conversion. I find that booking meetings through email or social selling, because you're not, this is kind of controversial, but because you're not cornering someone on the phone, they feel kind of awkward. They want to get off the phone. They might agree to a meeting because they want to be polite and don't want to be awkward. But because I was like genuinely building a relationship, even though it did take 2 weeks to book the meeting, I'm pretty sure he's going to show up to the meeting. And you know what I mean? Just give me the time of day because I made the effort to genuinely connect, and I wasn't like pressuring him or annoying him. Well, actually, maybe I was annoying him a little bit, but you know what I mean.
yeah, and you're right on this because that's something maybe you don't think about playing the long game. It's thinking about when they say yes to the meeting. Here you build giving him value and
Yeah.
before having the meeting, so you know that he knows that he's going to get some value during this meeting. So actually,
Yeah.
how do you balance providing valuable content versus asking for a meeting? So I know with this one, for example, you did not ask for a meeting on social, but how do you balance that?
I really try not to use social for like directly asking for a meeting. I really like kind of having emails running in the background for that. So I spoke to Adam J, who's the CRO at Falcon yesterday, and he actually told me something, and it really clicked with me. He basically said that they use LinkedIn for building personal and brand recognition, email for brand recognition, and then phone once like some prior rapport was built, just on those other channels, and then giving the prospect a call when it's a little bit more warm-ish. So yeah.
The beginning, I was asking you a question about, hey, what do you think is the most important? So you said find your prospects community.
Yeah.
What do you think is also important for social selling?
A lot of people think that social selling is just about content creation, but I would argue that it's 75% like basically interacting with people in DMs or interacting with their content opposed to just posting content yourself. Um, so yeah, I think that that's something that people think that they have to be expert content creators to be really good at social selling. I honestly think being great at social selling is a lot about having a really good memory and staying in touch with people and kind of having a network of a couple hundred people and making sure to remember small details about people, congratulate them when they start new jobs, support people's podcasts, support people's LinkedIn posts, and just remember little things about them and what they tell you about, because they'll always remember you when you've been supportive of them, of stuff that they're putting out, and just remembering small details about them.
And actually, when you said about having a good memory for social things, so something I just started to use last week is using Love to have it's not to send emails or anything, but it's just like having reminders for those people who are engaging with on LinkedIn, because right now my inbox is a
Yeah,
mess, and
it's
so
really chaotic.
it's really hard to keep track of everything. So I
Yeah.
started to use a specific sequence on Love to keep track of that.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What do you mean?
Yes, so every time I have a prospect who start to engage with me, for example, or start reply to one of my message, I have a sequence on Says Love. So it's just LinkedIn engagement slash reply.
Yeah.
And I have like a task every 2 or 3 days, depending on where they are on this cadence.
Yeah.
But here, the goal here is just to have a notification on Says Love saying, hey, it's just to keep them in mind, because
Yeah.
my process before that was I have my inbox, I have maybe sometimes 50, more than 60 prospects that I'm engaging with at the same time, and it's hard for me to keep track of all of them. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
I have
do you have
I
something similar?
often have
Or?
Yeah, I often have like not an Excel spreadsheet, but a Google spreadsheet where I basically will have a list of because like a lot for that developer marketing prospecting gig that I had, I was following probably 250 developer marketing people on Twitter, but there was probably like the top 40 people that I was interacting with. They were frequently posting, I was frequently responding, so I was kind of building that rapport. So I would have a list of those kind of top 40, 50 people who were posting a lot. I was interacting with them. And then I'd look at the list either every day or every other day and say, oh, I haven't talked to James in a while, or oh, Nick hasn't like tweeted anything in a while. And so I just kind of have that at a glance list. And it's like, I haven't been in touch with him. I'll send like a Twitter DM and say, how's your new gig going? Or I know that you were planning that conference. How did the conference go? So I always have my kind of at a glance list of the top people that I'm trying to connect with, and I always glaze over it because I do have a good memory, but it's definitely very easy to get lost in the sauce. There's so many different social platforms. The LinkedIn inbox is surely a chaotic mess. So having that list of people and just like constantly going over it and say, was I in touch with this person lately? Let me just ping them a quick note is a really good way to yeah, just trying to like stay on top of the people that you're trying to keep connected with.
What advice would you give to, I would say, a new SDR starting to use social selling, and what advice should they ignore?
If you are a new SDR, new to social selling, and you want to kind of build your presence on LinkedIn as a sales thought leader, you want to connect with more people, be exposed to more opportunities to come on Elric's podcast or job opportunities or book meetings with prospects. I actually have a list of because like a lot of young SDRs or new SDRs come to me and just say like, what do I do? Where do I start? And I have a list of like 50 people to start connecting with or following. And I just tell them to make sure. So if you DM me, I'll send you my list that I send to a lot of people about just kind of like thought leaders in the space because they post a lot. And then if you challenge yourself to make like 10, 15 to 20 comments a day on these people's posts, is when you'll start building relationships with them. So reach out to me. I have a really good list of people that you can start connecting with and kind of get like involved with yourself in the community. I'd be happy to have a chat and a session with you and just start interacting with those people. Another big thing for me is don't overthink like content creation or interacting with people. I think that when I was a little younger, I used to think that I wouldn't have anything unique to say. Nobody would want to listen to me. Who am I? Like, there's like anyone who's had the experiences that I've had, like, everybody's had these experiences. It's nothing new or unique. But what I really learned about LinkedIn and Twitter is people want community and people want friends and they want community. They want to talk to new people and learn from new people's experiences. So even if you think that everybody has had the same thoughts as you, They probably have, but you definitely have a unique personality, a unique spin on things. You haven't worked at all the same companies that other people have worked at. So really don't overthink it. And the other thing too is your content is going to get a lot better over time. If you create more content, if you write more, if you go on more podcasts, you're going to be a more articulate like communicator, speaker, writer, etc. So just get started because it's never going to be easier to get started. It's always going to be hard and difficult and tricky. So just got to put yourself out there and start creating. And yeah,
Exactly. Practice.
yeah, yeah. Practice makes perfect, baby.
So we are at the end of this episode, but actually we are going to do two parts. So next week, yeah, we are going to record the second part of the episode.
Yeah.
So we are going to have some examples that we can show you and to show some meetings that Monica booked with some prospects. But before we end the episode, Monica, do you want to share something else with the audience?
Don't overthink content creation, social selling, networking, and getting to know people. The other thing I'll say is if you don't advocate for yourself, no one will. So like a big thing that I like to do as like a part of my LinkedIn and social selling strategy, creating my personal brand and just kind of establishing credibility in the space is sharing examples of my wins and how I've done well. I think that a lot of people don't like to brag about themselves or talk too much about themselves. But if you're not going to advocate for yourself and new opportunities to do speaking engagements, you know what I mean, talk to people like yourself, like nobody's going to do it for you. So like just put yourself out there and message me on LinkedIn if you need any help, and I'll give you a little pep talk about about getting started.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today for this first part. And thanks everyone for listening to this first part. And I see you on the next episode.